Hi, I'm General Grudge, and this is the totally biased Comicsgate review of Doug Tennapel's Bigfoot Bill, Shadow of the Mothman. Spoiler alert, it's the best deal in crowdfunding. Why do I call these reviews totally biased? Because they are, and I am. All humans have bias, and it's better to be honest about it so that you know where I stand and judge for yourself if you feel like I'm worth listening to. Now, you can't have a totally biased review without me telling you what I think of the author, Doug Tennapel. So let's get started. Spoiler alert, I'm a total fanboy. I follow Doug on Twitter, subscribe to his YouTube channel, and have consumed his work for many years. I find him a pleasant person online and somewhat of a kindred spirit when it comes to religion, politics, and comic books as a whole. He treats both his fans and his distractors with reasonable respect, and that is more than I can say for some other people in the Comicsgate community. Bigfoot Bill is actually not the first time I have supported Doug Tennapel's work via crowdfunding. The first was a Kickstarter for Armorcrog, the video game. Now, while I am a big video game fan, if I'm being honest, I'm not a fan of old-school adventure games like Armorcrog. So why did I back it? Simply for no other reason than one of the awards, and it was this beautiful Doug Tennapel sketchbook. And it is beautiful. Just look at the amazing quality of this book. It is a good example of the pro-customer backing and quality that you can expect for one of Doug's campaigns. I never got around to installing Armorcrog, which is probably a shame. I bet it's a very good game. What the heck, I should probably do that now. Anyway, back to Doug Tennapel and his career. Doug has a long history in animation, video games, and comic books. He is best known for creating Earthworm Jim and working on its massively popular video game and cartoons, toy lines, and other merchandise. He has also worked on other video games like The Neighborhood, Skull Monkeys, and the aforementioned Armorcrog, and many others. He has also worked and helped create other popular cartoons like VeggieTales, Project Geeker, Sock Baby, and of course Nickelodeon's Cat Scratch. He is basically a creative Renaissance man and is arguably the most successful and influential creator in the indie comic self-publishing movement today. But honestly, I don't care about his animation work or his video game work. I'm all about those sweet, sweet Doug Tennapel comic books, and man, am I glad a movement like Comicsgate exists so I can regularly back and enjoy his work. Here are just a few of the books I have of Doug Tennapel's, and these were just the ones laying around the room when I recorded this video. Creature Tech, which is arguably one of my most favorite of the books. We've got Cardboard, which is a crowd favorite. Everybody likes it. Iron West, I guess this is one of his old Image books. Not my favorite, but it's still pretty good. I've got all the Newt books, Tommysaurus Rex, Earthboy Jacobus, and that's just to name a few. So needless to say, I'm a biased big fan of Doug Tennapel. Doug Tennapel is literally one of my all-time favorite comic book artists. He's one of those rare creators that is masterful at the art, story, and character creation. I feel just that is what puts Doug head and shoulders above any current other creators in Comicsgate, but more on that later. So let's move on from the totally biased part of this video and move on to the comic book itself. First up is the shipping, extras, and the cover itself. Bigfoot Bill was shipped quickly and safely and was in great shape when it arrived at my house. This is impressive considering the size and the quality, so I was very grateful for that. It also shipped with a handful of cool, typical extras like a neat double-sided bookmark or a pack of trading cards, which I should probably open, I guess, and best of all, a Bigfoot Bill iron-on patch that one day I plan to actually iron on something. The book is a large hardbound cover and it has a nice gold embossed design. It displays a great logo and another embossed image of Bigfoot Bill. It is great quality and really beat my expectations when I assumed I was just going to get a small, soft-cover comic book. Doug really deserves credit for this. Okay, that's enough about the beautiful cover. Now let's talk about the nuts and bolts of the comic itself. Let's talk about the art, lettering, coloring, and the story as a whole. Spoiler alert, it's just as advertised, fun, quirky, and lots of unexpected depth. Doug Tennapel brings his usual cartoony and fresh style that any fan would expect from him. His background in animation quickly becomes obvious as his unique art style jumps off the page and flows effortlessly as his panels cleanly tell the story and move the action along. Within just the first 8 pages of the 96-page book, you are introduced not just the main character, but also 4 other unique characters and quickly learn a lot about Bigfoot Bill, his origin, and the background of the whole story. This trend continues throughout the whole book, and you are treated to a clean art and panels that easily communicate the action, character, motivations, and settings in a way that is not distracting or tedious. This is a marvelous achievement for a modern-age comic book, I'm sad to say, because so many creators have lost this ability to utilize the unique art form of the comic book medium correctly. It's hard to talk about why this is without getting too much into the story elements, and since the story comes a bit later in this review, I'll move on to the lettering and the coloring. The short version of this is simply that both are great and do exactly what they're supposed to do. The colors come off as a little too bright for my taste, but really for the art style they are what exactly they should be if I'm being honest, and I cannot fault the book for my own personal taste on that issue. Now on to the story. This part of the review is where I have to be very careful not go on and make this video too long. If I were to go into too deep a detail as to why I think this seemingly simple story and character development proves that Doug Tennapel is head and shoulders above any other figure in Comicsgate, this review would last for hours. I will try to save a lot of time and just point out that Doug is the only creator in Comicsgate that can do the creator hat trick. That means not only is Doug a great professional artist, but he can tell an excellent story and understands the genre better than most active living comic book creators today. But there's a third thing he can do that so far you just do not see from a lot of other creators in Comicsgate. He can create unique and interesting characters. This last thing is the most glaring weakness of most of the other Comicsgate books that you see crowdfunded today. I used to think the biggest thing holding the movement back was the lack of professional artists, but I have recently had the epiphany that the biggest setback is the often generic and uninteresting characters in the books. If you think about it, only a few creators in the whole history of the medium have been talented enough to pull off not just being able to draw and tell a good story, but also being able to be a decent scripter and come up with new and interesting multi-dimensional characters. Usually in the past, your most legendary books had a great pairing on them, like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, for example. People who worked together to make interesting characters, and then later you had creators who came along after them and utilized these already fully realized characters and told great stories around them. Now think about that and think about what a movement like Comicsgate is and what it has to work with. You have creators that are only forced to publish the whole book basically by themselves, but by the very nature of the business they have to draw it, write it, and the tricky part, use their own characters and IPs. They can no longer stand on the shoulders of giants and dip into a great depth of a publisher's back history and toolbox of established characters. One of the rarest things in any art form or medium is that one creator who is good at all these things. And in my opinion, Doug Tennapel is. Even though I'm a fan and a supporter of many other creators in Comicsgate, he's the only one so far that can do all of these things extremely well. Just to further my point, here are a few quick examples. Let's take Ethan Van Sciver. He's obviously a very good artist. So far, the only character he has created for his self-publishing work is the one-dimensional generic character called Cyberfrog, and he is just a recycled creation from his own indie past. True, Ethan may surprise us in the future and create an interesting 30-dimensional character with a cool plot and backstory, but it hasn't happened yet. Now let's take a look at Mike Miller's awesome character, Lone Star. He's the exact kind of comic book character that I prefer, and Mike does a great job of showing his character through the little things, but one can hardly look at Lone Star and call him original. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it has to be. I love Lone Star, and one of the things I really like about the book are its obvious inspiration from Captain America, but it's still lacking something in the originality department. There are many other books that I could name in Comicsgate that actually do have interesting and unique characters, but more often than not, they drop the ball in either the artwork or the scripting. They never do all three well. Many of these indie creators are going to have to group together and combine skills if they really want to create meaningful and original books, but Doug has the luxury of being able to do all three right now. Let's take the character and story of Bigfoot Bill and try to prove this quickly. At first, Bigfoot Bill looks the typical childish cartoon character one would expect to an untrained and critical eye, and would claim he is just an Earthworm Jim knockoff. But there is a lot more to him and his backstory than that. First, you have the whole backstory of the government organization that is behind the program in the area that is not only where Bigfoot Bill lives, but is also his prison. This place is called the Crypto Zone and is a very interesting Hellboy-like setting that not only lets Doug introduce Bill and dozens of other wacky but cool characters, but it also lets him introduce other important parts of the series like Bill's best friend and handler Beckner and his romantic interest, Agent Sharon. Within this one small area and setting, we get not only the main protagonist and his friends, but the quasi-bad guys like certain heartless government officials, and the actual evil and deadly villains like Poseidon and Mothman. This is done so effortlessly that you might not notice it, and that's because this is good storytelling and it's done correctly and efficiently. Also, early on, we learn the tragic backstory that Big Bill was most likely stolen from his parents and lied to make him believe he was the last of his kind. This revelation is the catalyst for the rest of the tale, which will unfold until Big Bill stealing Poseidon's finger, which lets Bigfoot Bill wield the powerful but potentially dangerous Kraken. I do not want to spoil much more of the story, but these events lead into a nice and heartwarming character study that results in Bigfoot Bill not only freeing himself, but rescuing many people who cannot defend themselves, and even saving the whole world from the surprisingly powerful Mothman. Like all of Doug's characters, Bigfoot Bill and many of the other characters shine in a childlike decency and goodness that you don't get to see in many modern comic books these days. Bill is innocent, his motives are pure, and he is loyal to his friends, and you hope that the Kraken and its power and its darkness do not corrupt his spirit and his kindness. Everything moves along and ends in a satisfying way, and the tale is long enough and full enough substance that you do not feel like you wasted your money and time, and quite frankly, that's about all you need to ask from a comic book. Needless to say, I loved it and I can't wait for more. Now, there might be one last thing you might ask me, now that I'm finished with my review. How does this affect you, now that you've already missed out on backing Bigfoot Bill? Well, the answer is simple. Knowing how this project was fulfilled and how it turned out might inform you if you want to support this creator in the future. Doug just wrapped up his current crowdfunding campaign, which is the origin story to his creation, Earthworm Jim. I'm not sure if you can still back it. I, of course, already did. But Doug is already working on Bigfoot Bill 2, and you can expect an Indiegogo for that soon, I'm sure. Doug has already proved that not only can he fulfill his obligations, but that he makes a point to go above and beyond in the quality of the projects. He is also that rare comic book artist that meets his deadlines and doesn't make you wait forever for his next book. That says a lot in this day and age. Anyway, I'm General Grudge, and that about wraps it up for my review of Doug Tennapel's Bigfoot Bill. I hope you enjoyed it. This is just the second installment of Totally Biased Comicsgate reviews, but never fear, I'm enjoying making these videos and buying these books, so more are coming soon. Next time, if all goes as planned, I'll reveal John Del Ro's Flying Sparks 1 and 2. So if you like these videos, please like and subscribe and come back next time. Later.